Hey, what's up, everybody? Cheddar back with another video. Just wanted to kind of go over some tips and tricks with the Wraithlord. I have been playing it a shit ton, and there are some interesting things about it that I kind of want to go over. This is the Rise QT Hardcore build, and it's pretty much one-for-one copy. I'll make sure to add a link in the description to the video that he put out. And as of this video recording, there's still nothing on max roll for this particular build, I believe. Could be wrong on that. But nonetheless, it's very fun, it's very popular, but I kind of want to go over some of the jank with it. First things first, you can outpace the Wraithlord. If you get a screen away, he will start to get the zoomies. And let me just see if I can kind of try to leave him alone. So now I left him in the dust. You can see here. He's about to get the zoomies. There you go. See, now he has the zoomies. And if you get into his aura again, then he'll stop. The only other way to combat this is to have the teleport minions when you use a traversal skill. I am using Transplant because I wanted to swap over to Ghost Flame so I can get higher defenses and the higher corruption that I'm in. But before you do this, you use, what is it again? Summon Skeletal Mage, and then you take the Death's Cavalry here. This is a very useful node, and it's going to make it to where your minions will teleport with you. So that's what you would typically have to get the Wraithlord out of those situations where he's zooming around acting crazy. What I'm doing is because I wanted to push higher, I guess I could swap back to it. It's really not that big a deal, but I really did want to get the ward per second while channeling, because this is just super clutch in those situations where you're being overwhelmed and you need to reposition. As I was pushing higher corruptions, I just opted for this anyway, and I just decided to play around not having the teleport. So let's go back into a monolith and let's take a look at how you would do this without the teleport. More or less, you just have to be really steady with him. Another tip, if you are playing this character or this build, I don't know if they fixed the bug yet, but I'm just in the habit of resummoning the Wraithlord every time, hit him with your buffs, give him some minions to eat, and you're basically off to the races. That's the playstyle, and then every, I don't know, I feel like it's a few seconds, he'll stop, or maybe like 10, 20 seconds. You'll get the idea. The buff right here, where my cursor's at, will drop off, you'll see it, and he's no longer critting. And that's probably a good idea to, give him some food and rebuff him. So there, I just fed him some minions. I didn't rebuff him, but he's not going to need that. I think he gets the spell buffs for about 10 seconds when you feed him. So if you notice, after I get into a new area, I just kind of run back into him to get him to stop and start using his beam abilities. Because if I don't stop, he'll just keep zooming. As soon as he gets within radius of me, or I get in radius with him, he will stop and cast his abilities. You might ask yourself, well, why are you doing this? Why wouldn't you just, use the teleport? Well, I've been trying to get the teleport onto these boots. Last Steps to Living. This is like the boot for the Lowlife build here, and I've had probably about 2 attempts with the Last Steps to Living, and I failed them. I've only gotten 1 legendary potential. I've got 4 more of them to smash, but I need to find the experimental affix where the zombies teleport when you use a traversal skill. So that's what I'm farming for. I'm hitting all of the mages I can. So I'm going to rebuff and give him some food. Boom, he's ready to go. So just have to do that periodically. And then if you are not using the traversal skill, you just have to make sure that, if you're zooming through some content, like I'm just rushing the objective and I'm rushing to the exiled mages to get the mod. So after I've, speed through some areas, he'll probably be off his rocker and trying to chase me. So you just kind of have to reposition and go back into it. It can be a little janky, and sometimes when it gets really thick, um, it can start to really mess you up. But let me just give him some food, let me rebuff him, and let me see if I can kind of trigger this. So a lot of these areas where you're traversing stuff and you gotta move around objects, he'll get stuck on them. So in the worst case scenario, if he is stuck on some jank shit and he dies, just ghost flame out, teleport him somewhere safe like this, give him the buffs again, refeed him, and then get back into the action, reposition, so on and so forth. Once you do get the mod on the boot, see, he's just going to run until I actually come into contact with him. And he finally stopped because he was within the area. But yeah, so you want to be able to reposition and get him to stop. Once you do get the boot mod, it's not that big a deal. And once he gets off his rocker or you get into the area, you just hit the transplant and he'll be right there with you. So it solves all of these issues. So big rant about something that most people are probably not going to deal with because they're not going to be as unlucky as I am and not get the boot mod. So here I have my attempts in. Okay, so I only have 2 attempts left. So if I brick them, I just kind of toss them. I'm getting a lot of these. I'm just running the Blood, Frost, and Death. So that's where the boots will drop, is this monolith here. And I've been running these nonstop. I'm about to get up to over 350 corruption, so I'm comfortable pushing the corruption. That's not the issue. Once I switch to Ghost Flame, I stop dying as much. So it's really not that bad. Actually, now that I think about it, I didn't really switch to Ghost Flame for... I mean, that was part of the reason, but I think I just wanted to cruise around like this because, this is fucking badass. This shit just... yeah. So who doesn't want to do that? But anyway, I just figured I'm high enough level. I'm going to be farming into higher corruption. I finally just got 8 on my ranks. Once you hit 8, every rare is basically exalted. It says a 25% chance, and that is so... it's good enough to literally just be exalted. So every time I see one of the exiled mages, he actually does drop, or they actually do drop exalteds majority of the time because the exalted chance is already so high, and then the rare has that 25% chance on top of it. So it shouldn't be as hard as it is to find these boots, but yeah, they've been kicking my ass. I've been like two ranks trying to find these. When I first started doing this, I actually did find a pair before I got rank 8, and I used the what is it, the rune of research, and I sealed the affix, and that bricks it, by the way. Or I guess it doesn't brick it. I think it can still rip the affix, but you have to have all of the slots filled. So it would be a 5 mod, and then even if you had a 4 legendary potential item, which good luck getting that, you're more than likely going to brick it because it's adding an extra affix. So it's not going to rip all 4. It's only going to rip 4 of the 5. So essentially, you're bricking your chances of getting the affix when you use the rune of research. So don't do what I did. Be smart about it and don't use the rune of research on it. And it was funny because I'm in the zone or whatever to smash the items together, and it's telling me that it has to be filled up, and I'm like, oh shit. Well, let me go ahead and just craft on a random, affix so that I can at least have a 1 in 5 chance to get the teleport. Nope, the rune of research took whatever forging potential I had, and it took it down to 0. So it was a truly pitiful moment of breaking that character. So basically, what we're doing here is we are summoning a big bad wraith, all due to this helmet, and he is going to consume all non-wraith minions, giving him a temporary flat spell damage bonus for 10 seconds. And that is basically all of the scaling damage. We need some increases here, increases there. This is the entire build. You could start this as low as 65, and you don't need any other pieces of gear to get it going. Heck, you probably don't even need a weapon, really. Anything with minion spell damage, or honestly, like any weapon at all, utility, is probably going to be really fine because this build just does so much damage. Um, Mentions of the build. Let me try to rack my brain real quick. Things to know and things to look out for. I would say number one thing is you do not want any damage mods on any of your gear. Rise does speak about this in depth. His video's pretty long, so I'm trying to just condense down the highlight points. Number one thing, you don't want damage on any of your gear. No spell damage, no damage over time, and no fire damage specifically. Any other damage is not going to affect you, so that's fine. It's just a dead stat. But if it has spell damage, damage over time, elemental damage over time, or fire damage, it's going to be a detriment to your Dave Lord. Because we are using the Infernal Shade, it is slowly killing the Wraithlord over time. So any additions to spell damage, fire damage, elemental damage over time, or damage over time is going to kill your Dave Lord quicker. Sorry about that. On top of that, I would say finding pieces of minion health here and there will probably be a good call. I noticed towards getting to like 250, the end of 200s, and into 300s of the monoliths, it was starting to, you could feel that, he needs a little bit of help. His leech is strong as shit, but there's some times where he's doing the zoomies and he's moving around. In order to mitigate the jank, you just want these little quality of lives as much as possible. So stacking minion life here and there is not a bad option, and I would honestly encourage it if you could find some minion life here and there. I think I got some on my belt. Yep, so I have 134 on belt, 135 on my offhand, and then I think I have some on another piece somewhere. Anyway. Yes. And then I have I think that's a T6. Okay, it's a T6. T6 minion health roll on the amulet. So little things like that will help out mitigating the jank of the build. It is, I'm the type of person that really hates janky builds, and this is up there in the jank category, but I would just have to say that he just does so much damage that it's just so much fun to run around with this guy. You know, pop him up, hit him with your buffs, feed him, rinse, repeat every moment. You get like a downside in between packs or something like that. After about, 10 seconds, give or take, you'll watch the buffs fall off. It's really not that bad. And at first, it can feel kind of shitty, but after you get the feel of the playstyle, it starts to smooth out, especially when you have the teleport already set up. So you probably won't be dealing with the bullshit that I'm dealing with. I'm just self-imposing this bullshit just because I want to be able to ghost flame around and have that added layer of defense into higher corruptions. And I kind of just said, fuck it, I'll, eventually get the mod anyways. Well, if you're anything like me, once you do something like that, the game says, all right, fucker, you're never going to see that mod. And that's basically where I'm at. So I could swap back. Really don't want to. And honestly, I really don't need to. Doing what I suggested in understanding how to kind of like work with your minion, it's really not that bad. Might be a little bad, might be a little cringe to some that just want to like beeline to objectives and beeline here, and that they don't want to like stop and help him reset and start doing damage. Then the build's probably not for you, or that particular situation might not be for you. And like I said 1,000 times before, once you have that mod and you have the minions teleporting, you will not deal with any of that bullshit. I'm just letting you know if you found yourself in a situation similar to mine, that there is a workaround and it's not the end of the world if that's how your build is going to be set up. There's just ways to play around it. Trying to think of anything else worth mentioning. If you do go low life, the main pieces of gear you're going to need are probably just going to be the boots and the chest piece to get started. That they're pretty common. Blood Frost and Sand, or whatever the monolith I'm running right now, the boss at the end of that drops these boots. They're relatively common. I've seen a couple of exsanguinous, so they're pretty common. And with the prophecies, you could target farm them. And if you're in merchants and you're rank 7 or higher, you could probably just buy these really cheap. But these are the only two pieces of gear that you're going to need in order to make the low life transition work. The sword chronostasis will definitely make that feel good, and it's got a huge intelligence modifier, so we're stacking int, and that feels good as well. Having the minion life on a few pieces here and there won't kill you. Having the experimental mod gloves with the current missing health, loss per second as ward, that goes in tandem with all your other low life pieces, so that helps out a lot. And then I would say the only other mandatory thing you need to make this build work is another one of these easy to find items, which is the experimental affix on belts that make it to where you spawn 3 volatile zombies when you use a flask. This is going to enable you to drop zombies off your bar so that you can switch to Ghost Flame and Transplant. I had some buddies of mine that were, watching the Rise video, and he doesn't have it set up on his skill bars when he's going into his skills because he has it set like this, but his skill bars are different, and parts of the video he doesn't have his Transplant. I think he's just in transition, switching things around, which tend to be how it works. And like I said, as of the recording of this video, there is no guide on max roll. But what I'm saying, what you do is that you have the boot mod, you use Transplant, you have Transplant on your bar, but you're not spec'd into Transplant. You're spec'd into Volatile Zombie. Because we're still spawning the zombies with the flasks, we're still getting all the effects from the zombies, and we want the minion to eat as much zombies or as much minions as possible. So we have him on the skill bar, or we have him spec'd into specialization for the zombie, but we do not have him on the hotbar because we're using the flasks to proc the zombies. So that way we could fit all of our actual skills. So the 2 buffs are traversal skill, our Ghost Flame, which is just quality of life and making it to where you don't I believe it does cause CC immunity. I feel like I've been stunned. I hit Ghost Flame and I zoom out. I could be wrong on that, but all in all, it's a really great utility skill. And then, of course, your Summon Wraith, which you need to have on there as well. So you will eventually get to where you have Ghost Flame and Transplant. Before Ghost Flame and Transplant, like if you're 65 just transitioning, just use Summon Skeletal Mage. I literally just swapped like maybe 4 levels ago. So like 92, 93, I want to say I switched over. So it's really not that big of a deal to get this setup going. So I would just say stick with Death's Cavalry until you get the boot mod that you can put onto your Last Steps of the Living. And then look out for anything you can round gear. I'm messing with a lot of the Weaver's Will items just because they come with potentially huge intelligence rolls and other things that are very useful. So another tip I would say is try to get your gear sorted, your reses sorted out on every other piece of gear other than like whatever you want a Weaver's Will. For instance, I've just been swapping all of my Weaver's Will, target farming them through the prophecies and just swapping these as I go, just because I want to have better stats, and I have several of them that I've been farming, so I'm just swapping them in, leveling them up, trying to get lucky. And okay, last thing I'll mention before we end it, the idols. You're going to want something to have Mark for Death on hit, just for single target. You don't need one of these would be just fine, but because this one has a huge life roll, if I can find one with another life roller on it or whatever, I would probably swap out of this. Everything else is just life and anything to shore up resistances. I don't even think I need, I do need these. So yeah, anything to shore up resistances and then just HP everywhere else because that converts into ward is basically what you're doing. But you want Mark for Death on hit just for those single target situations. And honestly, this damage is so stinking high, it's probably not even going to be that big of a deal. But I think that's all I got for today. Just wanted to make quick little tips and tricks, things to look out for on this build. And yeah, as you see, we're getting the channel situated, trying to pump up content here. And there will be many more videos on the way. So don't forget to get subscribed, show some love to the channel. I appreciate anything you do for me, argue in the comments, all that stuff. Tell me my videos suck. I really don't care. Sound off in the comments. Let me know how you feel, how you liked it. Everybody out there, have a great one. Stay sane.